the father of psychoanalysis, Sigmund Freud, was so convinced that there was a repressed subconscious sexual motivator behind everything we did, that some people would say he couldn't look at something that was long and cylindrical shaped without saying, oh yeah, it's a dick. Um, and because of that, you often hear the phrase in some circles, sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. So the idea that sometimes things aren't sexually motivated at all, sometimes things are just what they are. And while I don't subscribe to Freud's everything is motivated by sex rationale, I do disagree with the phrase sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. I think it's probably better said a cigar isn't always a dick, but it's never just a cigar. I think everything we do in life, regardless of what it is, has some kind of subconscious internal motivation that we may not be aware of, especially something like cigar smoking, which we know is dangerous to our health. If you do that in spite of knowing it, obviously there's something going on inside of you. It may not be complicated, it may not be deep and dark, it may be pretty simple, but a cigar is never just a cigar. You might have heard of the Freudian slip. And so that's this idea that Freud had, that even our mistakes, even the mistakes we made, are motivated by something inside of us. And so with a Freudian slip, you mean to say one thing and then you say something else that is potentially revealing about what's going on inside of you. So if you tell someone, I'll meet you at 6, and you accidentally say, I'll meet you at 6, then potentially you want to have sex with that person, or you're thinking about sex, or you're obsessed with sex in that moment, that kind of thing. Freud didn't call this a Freudian slip. That's what we called it. He called it parapraxis. And parapraxis doesn't just refer to mistakes we make speaking. It refers to any mistake. Freud would say anytime you screw something up, it potentially tells us something about what's going on inside of you. One of my heroes, Joseph Campbell, actually, when he was discussing the call to adventure, that was what he said, the thing that starts us on a certain path towards change, towards accomplishment, often that is a mistake that we make, and it ends up being a motivating factor. In his book, The Hero of a Thousand Faces, he says, as Freud has shown, blunders are not the merest chance. They are the result of suppressed desires and conflicts. They are ripples on the surface of life produced by unsuspected springs, and these may be very deep as the soul itself. The blunder may amount to the opening of a destiny. And so I understand if somebody doesn't take Joseph Campbell as a authority on psychological complexes and psychological motivations, and I understand if somebody disagrees with Freud's assertion, but I do think sometimes our mistakes can lead to our destiny. And in keeping with the theme of this vlog, maybe our mistakes are our Daimon, kind of doing something to keep us on the path of our destiny. And I want to tell you a story from my life about a blunder that ended up changing the very direction of my life. So I've mentioned in previous videos, I used to work at a church, and the church, I'm not going to get into the details because they're not important, but the church was going through a paradigm change. They were changing the way they did things. And because of that paradigm change, my job, I got a new assignment, and I was told this assignment was the most important thing I would do every week. And this will tell you how important I was to the church. This job was pushing a button once a week, and then an hour later pushing it again. That was it. That simple task was the most important thing that I would do every week. And so, and clearly listening to it described that way, it was an easy thing. Like if that was the most important thing I would do every week and it was that easy, well, hell yeah, let's go. But for some reason, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it correctly. I couldn't do it well. I couldn't do it reliably. And like I said, it was really easy. This is a job I think a monkey could be trained to do. This is a job an 8-year-old could do. So Jack Henry, let me ask you a question.
What?
If I gave you a job to push a button one time, do you think you could do that job?
Yeah.
What if the job was to push it twice?
Yes.
You don't think you'd have any trouble with that?
No.
But for some reason, it was I messed it up. If not every week, most weeks I screwed it up. I pushed it at the wrong time, or I forgot to push it, or I forgot to push it the second time, or I pushed it too early, or something like that. And so I'm not a genius, but I'm college educated. I'm reasonably well read. I am not overwhelmingly incompetent. So why couldn't I do this really easy job? The other thing going on at this time, which I've also talked about in other videos, is I was really struggling with my faith. I wasn't sure what I believed anymore. And it was to such a degree that I really shouldn't have been working at a church. One, because it wasn't fair to the church and the people who are looking to me for spiritual leadership inside of a Christian frame. And it wasn't fair to me. I shouldn't have been doing the things I was doing every week if I wasn't sure I even believed in the whole thing. And so I really should have quit that job, but I was scared to do that. And so I think my daimon, or myself, or my unconscious being acted through by myself or my daimon, decided if he's not brave enough to do what needs to be done, we're going to make him do it. We're going to make him continually screw this up every week until finally his employers will have no recourse except to fire him. And that's what happened. And there were various reasons given for why I was losing the job. And for a long time I really positioned myself as the victim, and I realized that I wasn't the victim. This was something that I was doing, if not on purpose. I was doing unconsciously, subliminally. I was being led to make this mistake regularly, and because of that I got fired. And so then it was like, okay, I was struggling with my faith. I no longer have this job. I can really do the work of figuring out what I believe. And it didn't take long for me to figure out I don't believe what I was supposed to believe to work at this church. And I was allowed to go on what felt like my true path, my genuine path, which has led me to this video and to you watching it. And maybe you're watching it by mistake. Maybe you meant to watch a cooking video, or maybe you clicked on some Marvel, meant to click on some Marvel Easter egg video, or some Kate Upton outtakes. I've just told you the 3 things I click on. But maybe you clicked on it by mistake because you need to be drawn into the idea of something maybe leading you right now. And so here's what I would encourage you to do. And this is internal work. This is going to require you to go inside. Start asking yourself, what mistakes have I made that had a defining effect on my life? And did those mistakes make sense? They might have, but in my case, they totally didn't make sense. That I couldn't push a button twice a day, that didn't make sense. And so that leads me to kind of say, maybe something else was at work here. And so ask yourself, look at the mistakes, go backwards and ask yourself, in my life, what are the things that I have done that have been foibles, that have been blunders, that have been mistakes that seem to open my destiny up in front of us? Maybe a different destiny than you could have been pointed at that time. So anyway, that's parapraxis. That's mistakes. That's how our daimon leads us through our mistakes. And to me, it's a fascinating topic because it gives me an opportunity to think about the thing I love to think about, which is myself. And so if you're like me and you like to think about yourself, here's the invitation to do that. Think about your mistakes and think about the things you've screwed up and how they've changed your life.